Imagine this for a moment. A little boy standing at a railway station holding clay cups filled with hot tea, running barefoot between trains to earn a few coins for his family. The world saw just another poor tea seller. But hidden inside, that boy was a dream so big it would one day shake an entire nation. That boy grew up to become not just a leader, but the prime minister of the largest democracy on earth, India. This isn't just the story of politics or power. It's the story of grit, of resilience, of a journey that proves no obstacle is too high and no dream is too big. From the dust of poverty to the heights of global recognition, his life is living proof that the impossible can be made possible. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover in today's video. How a tea seller from a small town defied all odds, rose to power, and became an inspiration for billions. His journey isn't just about him. It's about the belief that you too can rewrite your destiny no matter where you start. So stay with us until the very end, because this story might just change the way you see your own dreams. And if you believe in the power of determination and vision, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who needs this inspiration today. On September 17, 1950, in the small town of Vadnagar, Gujarat, a child was born into a family that had very little in terms of wealth, but a heart full of resilience. His name was Narendra Modi. India itself was just 3 years old as an independent nation, still finding its feet after centuries of struggle. And in this newly free land, little Narendra's life began in the humblest of circumstances. His father, Damodardas Modi, ran a tiny tea stall near the railway station. It wasn't much, just enough to keep the family afloat. His mother, Hiraben Modi, worked tirelessly at home doing household chores and raising their 6 children. Together, they faced the harsh realities of poverty every single day. The Modi family lived in a small, single-story house made of mud walls. There was no electricity to light their nights, no running water to ease their daily struggles, and no proper furniture to bring them comfort. Life was a constant battle for survival, where even securing basic food was a challenge. Yet in the midst of these hardships, the values of hard work, discipline, and sacrifice were quietly shaping young Narendra. While the world outside was busy, moving forward in this tiny house of mud and clay, a future leader was being forged, not through privilege or luxury, but through struggle, scarcity, and the lessons of an ordinary family determined to make the best out of very little. And it was in this environment that Modi learned his very first lessons about life, the kind of lessons no school could ever teach. From the age of just 6, Narendra Modi's mornings looked very different from most children his age. While many kids were still asleep, little Narendra was already awake before sunrise, helping his father prepare tea at their small stall by the Vadnagar railway station. With steam rising from kettles and the smell of chai filling the air, he carried hot tea in clay cups, running barefoot along the platforms to serve tired passengers. It wasn't an easy childhood. Winters bit at his feet, summers burned his skin, but he never complained. Instead, he embraced the work as part of life's lessons. Selling tea taught him the value of discipline, waking up at 4 a.m., working before school, and pushing forward even when the body was tired. But more importantly, the railway station became his first classroom. As he poured tea into small cups, he listened. Travelers spoke of politics, leaders, the state of India, and the wider world. Each conversation was like a window into possibilities far beyond his small town. One day, he overheard someone speaking about Swami Vivekananda, the great monk who preached courage, discipline, and service to the nation. Those words stayed with him and would forever guide the path of his life. Through every cup of tea served, Narendra wasn't just helping his family survive. He was unknowingly preparing himself for a destiny far greater. Hard work toughened his body, discipline sharpened his mind, and those fleeting conversations at the station began to spark the fire of leadership in his heart. At school, Narendra Modi wasn't known as a top student in mathematics or science. His grades were ordinary, but there was something extraordinary about him that his teachers couldn't ignore: his confidence. Whenever there was a debate, a speech, or a play, Narendra was the first to volunteer. The moment he stepped onto the stage, his powerful voice and expressive delivery left everyone amazed. Even as a boy, people whispered, "This child is born to lead." But his real love was found away from the classrooms, in the library. Narendra devoured books on history, biographies of great leaders, and writings of spiritual masters. He was especially drawn to the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, who spoke about self-discipline, fearlessness, and serving the nation. These ideas didn't just inspire him. They began to shape the way he saw his life's purpose. While other children played outside, Narendra often sat quietly with a book in hand or spent time in deep thought. By the age of 12, he had even begun meditating, trying to understand the meaning of life and the value of service. His dream wasn't to chase wealth or comfort. It was something bigger, something nobler. He wanted to dedicate himself to the people of India. This combination of confidence, curiosity, and early spiritual discipline made him different from his peers. Slowly but surely, the boy who once sold tea was turning into a young thinker, a speaker, and a dreamer who was preparing for a life of service. At just 17 years old, when most teenagers are still figuring out what they want to do in life, Narendra Modi made a decision that shocked everyone. He left home. Without telling his parents, without money in his pocket, he set out on a journey across India. He traveled to ashrams, met monks, scholars, and social workers, seeking wisdom and answers to life's deeper questions. This wasn't a rebellion. It was a search for purpose. He wanted to understand the world, human struggle, and what it truly meant to serve others. After years of wandering and learning, he eventually returned home. But by then, he was no longer just young Narendra. He was a man with a vision, a dream, and a fire inside him. Soon after, his family followed tradition and arranged his marriage. At the age of 18, Narendra was wed to Jashodaben, a quiet and simple girl from a humble family. The ceremony was filled with customs, blessings, and the joy of relatives. To everyone around, it looked like the beginning of a normal family life. But Narendra Modi was different. Deep in his heart, he knew he was destined for a greater purpose. While most young men accepted their arranged marriages, he made a bold and controversial choice. He walked away from that life, never living with his wife, and dedicating himself entirely to the service of the nation. Some criticized him for abandoning personal relationships, while others admired his sacrifice. But for Modi, the path was clear. He could not build both a family and a political destiny. To serve millions, he had to give up the comforts of an ordinary life. And that decision, made as a teenager, would define the man he was becoming. Disciplined, determined, and willing to sacrifice everything for a bigger cause. After stepping away from a normal family life, Narendra Modi chose a path of service and discipline by joining the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, a Hindu nationalist volunteer organization. But unlike what many might imagine, his first steps there were anything but glamorous. He didn't begin as a leader giving orders. Instead, he swept the floors, cleaned the office, and served tea to senior members. For Modi, no task was too small. He believed that true leadership begins with humility, and every job, no matter how simple, was a lesson in discipline. Slowly, his commitment and energy caught attention. He was entrusted with greater responsibilities, organizing local meetings, planning community activities, and recruiting young people into the movement. Each event became a training ground, sharpening his ability to plan, manage, and inspire. And soon his greatest strength began to shine: public speaking. Whenever Modi stood before a group, his words carried power. His voice was firm, his ideas clear, and his passion undeniable. People listened, not just because he spoke well, but because he spoke from the heart. He could connect with farmers, students, and workers alike, making each person feel seen and understood. The senior leaders of RSS noticed his discipline, his tireless work ethic, and his natural charisma. What had started with menial chores was now evolving into a role of true leadership. For Modi, the RSS became more than an organization. It became a training ground that shaped his political instincts, his communication style, and his unwavering dedication to the nation. In 1975, India faced one of its most testing times. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared a state of emergency. a period when democracy itself was put on hold. Civil rights were suspended, the press was censored, and thousands of political opponents were thrown into jail. The entire nation lived under fear and silence. For young Narendra Modi, this was the moment that demanded courage. He refused to sit quietly while freedom was crushed. Instead, he went underground. With incredible daring, he took on secret missions, printing and distributing pamphlets, spreading awareness, and encouraging people not to lose faith in democracy. To avoid being caught, he often disguised himself, sometimes as a common laborer, sometimes as a religious monk, slipping through towns and villages under the watchful eyes of the authorities. Each day was a risk. Capture meant prison, perhaps worse, but the fear never stopped him. It was during these dangerous years that his reputation as a fearless and resourceful activist was born. His ability to adapt, to inspire others in silence, and to keep moving forward against all odds left a lasting impression on those around him. The emergency was not just a political crisis. It was a battlefield where Narendra Modi's resilience and dedication to democracy were tested. And it was here, in the shadows of oppression, that the young activist began to emerge as a leader who would never bow to fear. From the discipline of the RSS, Narendra Modi soon stepped into the larger world of politics. His journey took him to the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, where his organizational skills and fiery speeches quickly set him apart. Unlike many who entered politics through family legacies or wealth, Modi's rise was built purely on hard work, ground-level connections, and an ability to inspire crowds. He began by managing the behind-the-scenes work, planning rallies, coordinating volunteers, and ensuring every detail of party events ran smoothly. But it wasn't long before his talent with words pushed him into the spotlight. Modi's speeches carried a unique energy. They were sharp, emotional, and deeply connected to the struggles of ordinary Indians. People didn't just hear him, they felt him. As the BJP grew stronger in Gujarat, Modi's role became central. He helped design strategies, build grassroots networks, and energize supporters. His first major breakthrough came in 1995, when the BJP secured a historic victory in Gujarat state. For Modi, it was proof that years of discipline and relentless effort were paying off. That victory marked the beginning of his true political journey. From a boy serving tea at railway platforms to a strategist shaping a state's political destiny, Modi had come a long way. And yet, this was only the foundation of what was to come. The rise of a leader who would soon take center stage in India's politics. In 2001, Narendra Modi's life took a dramatic turn. Almost unexpectedly, he was chosen to become the Chief Minister of Gujarat after the resignation of his predecessor. For many, this was a surprising choice. Here was a man with no prior experience in holding government office, suddenly entrusted with leading an entire state. Critics doubted him, but Modi saw it as an opportunity to prove what determined leadership could achieve. From his very first day, he focused on the basics that mattered most to people's lives. Villages that had lived in darkness for decades were brought electricity. Roads and highways were built at a speed Gujarat had never seen before, connecting towns, villages, and industries. Investment flowed in, industries grew, and jobs followed. Modi's vision was clear. Governance should not be about politics alone. It should be about development, progress, and empowering people. Under his leadership, Gujarat began to transform into one of India's most dynamic states. Farmers received better irrigation, industries thrived with reliable infrastructure, and ordinary citizens started seeing visible change in their everyday lives. It was during these years that he earned the reputation of a development leader. For the first time, people began to see him not just as a politician, but as someone who could deliver results. The boy who once sold tea was now running one of India's most important states, and the world was starting to notice. In 2002, just months after Narendra Modi became chief minister, Gujarat was shaken by one of the darkest tragedies in its history. Communal riots erupted, leaving more than 1,000 people dead and tens of thousands displaced. The violence scarred the state, and Modi, as its leader, found himself at the center of national and international criticism. Many questioned his role. Some accused him of failing to act quickly enough, while others defended him as being overwhelmed by the scale of the crisis. For a time, it seemed this tragedy might end his political career before it had truly begun. But Narendra Modi did not step away. Instead, he chose to confront the storm head-on. While the criticism continued, he turned his full attention to rebuilding Gujarat, not just its image but its economy and future. He launched ambitious development programs, pushed for rapid industrialization, expanded infrastructure, and introduced policies to attract foreign and domestic investment. Slowly, the narrative began to shift. Gujarat became known not only for its pain, but also for its resilience and progress. Modi's focus on governance, efficiency, and growth helped him regain the trust of many. Though the riots remained a controversial chapter in his life, they also revealed his political survival skills and his ability to reshape public opinion through action. The boy who once listened to political debates at a railway station was now facing and surviving the harshest test of leadership. And from this trial, he emerged stronger, with his image transformed into that of a leader who could weather storms and drive progress. 14 marked a turning point, not just in Narendra Modi's life, but in the history of India's democracy. After years of leading Gujarat and earning national attention, Modi stepped onto the biggest stage, the race for Prime Minister. Millions across the country, from villages to bustling cities, rallied behind his promise of Achhe Din, or better days. For a nation tired of corruption scandals and economic slowdown, his message of hope, development, and strong leadership resonated deeply. The results stunned the political world. The Bharatiya Janata Party secured 282 seats on its own, a landslide victory and the first full majority by any party in over 30 years. Modi, the tea seller boy from Vadnagar, had become the 14th Prime Minister of India. His journey from the railway station to the nation's highest office captured the imagination of millions, proving that no dream is too big. Once in power, he wasted no time launching ambitious initiatives aimed at transforming the country. The Jan Dhan Yojana brought banking access to millions of poor families for the first time, giving them financial dignity. The Swachh Bharat mission inspired citizens to take part in a nationwide cleanliness drive, symbolizing a new culture of responsibility. Digital India pushed technology to the forefront, connecting villages and cities through the power of the internet, while Make in India encouraged industries to invest and manufacture within the country, fueling jobs and innovation. The first term of Narendra Modi wasn't just about policy, it was about reshaping India's identity. He positioned the nation as bold, confident, and ready to claim its place on the world stage. For the people, it was the beginning of a new Chapter 1, written by a man who had once poured tea into clay cups and was now pouring his vision into the destiny of 1 billion lives. By the middle of his first term, Narendra Modi had already established himself as a bold decision-maker, unafraid of risks. In 2016, he stunned the nation with one of the most dramatic economic moves in India's history: demonetization. Overnight, high-value currency notes were banned, aimed at striking down black money, corruption, and counterfeit cash. For millions, the move was shocking. Long queues formed outside banks, businesses struggled, and the economy wobbled. Supporters hailed it as a brave strike against corruption, while critics called it disruptive and poorly planned. Yet, regardless of opinion, one thing was clear. Modi had shown the country and the world that he was willing to take daring, unconventional steps in pursuit of his vision. By 2019, India was again preparing to vote, and Modi's leadership was under intense scrutiny. But fate handed him a defining moment: the Pulwama terror attack and India's response through the Balakot airstrikes. Modi projected a strong image of national security, rallying the country with the promise of safety and strength. His speeches, fiery and emotional, touched a deep chord with voters who longed for decisive leadership. The results were historic. The BJP didn't just return to power, it came back stronger, winning 303 seats on its own, surpassing even its 2014 success. For the second time, Narendra Modi had achieved what few leaders in India's history ever could: commanding a clear majority in a nation as diverse and divided as India. This period cemented his reputation as not just a development-focused leader, but also as a protector of the nation, someone who blended economic reforms with an assertive global and security stance. The tea seller boy from Vadnagar was now one of the most powerful figures on the world stage. When the world was hit by the unprecedented crisis of COVID-19 in 2020, Narendra Modi once again found himself at a defining moment of leadership. With a nation of over 1 billion people, the challenge was unlike anything India had ever faced. He announced one of the world's largest lockdowns, a bold step aimed at saving lives even as it froze the economy. It wasn't easy. Migrant workers walked hundreds of miles, businesses suffered, and families struggled. But alongside the hardships came resilience. India soon rolled out one of the largest vaccination drives in human history, delivering billions of doses not only to its own citizens, but also to neighboring nations in need. Massive welfare programs provided food grains and financial assistance to the poor, ensuring that even in the darkest times no one was left completely alone. Beyond the pandemic, Modi expanded India's role on the global stage. From powerful speeches at the United Nations to hosting the G20 presidency, he projected India as a confident, rising power. His international visits strengthened ties with countries across the world, from the U.S. to the Middle East, while also advocating for a multipolar world where India played a central role. Then came 2024, a year that would once again test the faith of the people. When the results were declared, history was made. Narendra Modi had been re-elected for a third consecutive term, a feat achieved by very few in India's democracy. His new vision was bold: to drive India toward becoming a $5 trillion economy with a renewed focus on education, healthcare, technological innovation, and defense. From managing a global pandemic to leading India onto the world stage and securing yet another mandate, Modi had become more than just a political leader. He had become a symbol of India's rising power and resilience. The journey of the tea seller boy had now entered its third most ambitious chapter. Even after decades in politics and power, Narendra Modi's personal life remains strikingly simple. He is a vegetarian, lives with remarkable discipline, and is known to work 16 to 18 hours a day, often surviving on just a few hours of sleep. His routine reflects the same values he practiced as a boy at the tea stall: hard work, sacrifice, and relentless focus. As a leader, he is defined by a few key traits. He is a visionary, always setting bold goals for India's future. He is unafraid of making bold decisions, whether it was demonetization, surgical strikes, or sweeping reforms. His ability to communicate, through speeches, social media, and direct outreach, has allowed him to connect with millions, from rural villagers to global leaders. Above all, his deep sense of patriotism runs through every decision, every word, every vision he shares for India. Today, Modi has a following that stretches across the world. With tens of millions of followers on social media, he is admired not just as a politician, but as a brand, an image of determination, leadership, and ambition. His influence goes beyond politics. He has become a symbol of resilience and aspiration for many who dream of achieving the impossible. But perhaps the greatest lesson from his life is this: your past does not define your future. Modi's story proves that greatness is not about where you start, it's about where you decide to go. From a mud house without electricity to the Prime Minister's office, from serving tea at a railway station to shaping the destiny of 1 billion people, his journey is living proof that with hard work, courage, and vision, no dream is too big. And that is the legacy of Narendra Modi. Not just the leader of a nation, but an inspiration to the world that even the humblest beginnings can lead to the grandest destinies.